The room buzzed with chatter as Marcus walked in, his hands tucked casually into the pockets of his dark jeans. He had always been the quiet one in his family, the kind of person who preferred listening to speaking. But today, he felt a strange sense of anticipation bubbling inside him. It wasn't just another ordinary family dinner. It was the day he decided to share something big. As everyone settled around the long wooden table laden with dishes, Marcus cleared his throat. The noise died down slightly, and all eyes turned toward him. His cousin Lisa paused mid-sentence, her fork hovering over her plate. "So?" Marcus began, his voice steady, despite the nerves twisting in his stomach. "There's something I want to tell you all." He glanced at his mother, whose eyebrows shot up in curiosity, then at his uncle, who leaned back in his chair with a smirk, already assuming this would be some trivial update about work or hobbies. Marcus took a deep breath. "I'm getting married." For a moment there was silence, then came the questions, rapid-fire and overlapping. "Who is she? How long have you known her? Is this serious?" Marcus waited patiently for the storm to subside before answering. "Her name is Nia. We've been together for 6 months now, and yes, it's very serious." That's when things shifted. A few people exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Someone coughed awkwardly, and then, like a crack in a dam, the whispers started. At first they were soft, almost imperceptible, but soon they grew louder, more pointed. "Nia? Who's that?" asked Aunt Carol, her tone dripping with skepticism. Before Marcus could respond, his younger brother chimed in, unable to hide his amusement. "Wait, isn't she, you know?" He trailed off, gesturing vaguely with his hands, unsure how to finish the sentence without sounding rude. Marcus knew exactly what he meant. Nia wasn't like the women his family usually approved of. She didn't fit the mold of the polished, slim, conventionally attractive types they expected him to date. She was curvy, unapologetically confident, and black, with a laugh that could light up an entire room. To Marcus, she was perfect. To his family, she seemed unexpected. His cousin Sarah leaned forward, her lips curling into a sly smile. "Oh, come on, Marcus, are you sure about this? Isn't it a bit rushed?" Her words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Others nodded along, murmuring their agreement. One relative even muttered under their breath, "Well, I guess love is blind." Marcus clenched his jaw but forced himself to stay calm. He had anticipated resistance, but hearing their doubts aloud still stung. Still, he refused to let them see him falter. Instead, he looked directly at his family, his gaze unwavering. "I'm sure," he said firmly. "Nia is amazing. She's smart, funny, and she makes me happier than I've ever been. That's all that matters." But his declaration did little to quell the skepticism swirling around the table. As dessert was served, the conversation drifted to other topics, though the underlying tension remained. Some relatives continued to exchange knowing looks, while others outright laughed at the idea of Marcus settling down with someone so different. Despite the ridicule, Marcus couldn't help but smile to himself. They didn't understand, not yet, anyway. But someday, he thought, they'd see what he saw in Nia. Until then, he would hold on to the truth that mattered most. He had found the person he wanted to spend his life with, and no amount of judgment could change that. Marcus still remembered the first time he saw Nia. It wasn't anything like the movies, no slow-motion walk or dramatic music, but it felt just as magical. He had been passing by a small community center on his way home from work when something caught his eye. A group of kids gathered in a circle, laughing and clapping as a woman stood in the middle, her arms raised high like she was conducting an orchestra. That woman was Nia. Curious, Marcus stepped closer, pretending to check out the art displayed on the walls, but really watching her. She was leading a painting session for children, showing them how to mix colors and express themselves through art. Her energy was magnetic. She laughed easily, her voice rich and warm, and she moved with a confidence that made people want to follow her lead. At one point, she noticed him lingering near the doorway and gave him a quick smile before turning back to the kids. It wasn't until later that they actually spoke. After the session ended, Marcus approached her, unsure of what to say, but feeling drawn to her all the same. "That looked like fun," he said awkwardly, gesturing toward the now empty room where paintbrushes lay scattered across tables. Nia turned to him, her dark eyes sparkling with amusement. "It was fun," she replied. "You should have joined us." They ended up talking for nearly an hour, leaning against the wall outside the center as the sun dipped below the horizon. Nia told him about her passion for teaching art to underprivileged youth, explaining how creativity could be a lifeline for kids who didn't have much else going for them. Marcus listened intently, fascinated not just by her words but by the way she carried herself, with such authenticity and purpose. As they parted ways that evening, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he'd met someone special. Over the next few weeks, they crossed paths again at various events around town. Each conversation revealed more layers to Nia's personality, her sharp wit, her deep empathy, and her ability to make anyone feel valued. Slowly but surely, their connection grew stronger. What struck Marcus most about Nia was her unapologetic confidence. She didn't try to shrink herself to fit into society's narrow definitions of beauty or success. Instead, she embraced every part of who she was. The curves of her body, the richness of her culture, the brilliance of her mind, and encouraged others to do the same. For Marcus, who had spent years trying to meet everyone else's expectations, this was revolutionary. Their relationship wasn't without challenges, though. From the start, they faced judgment from outsiders. Friends questioned why Marcus, a successful architect with a stable career, would choose someone like Nia, implying that her size or race somehow made her less worthy. Colleagues raised eyebrows, whispering behind closed doors about whether the relationship would last. Even some of Marcus's closest friends warned him that dating someone so different might complicate his life. But none of that mattered to Marcus. With Nia, he felt free in a way he never had before. She challenged him to see the world differently, to value substance over appearances. And in return, he supported her dreams, cheering her on as she pursued her own ambitions. Together, they created a partnership built on mutual respect and admiration. Looking back, Marcus realized that falling in love with Nia wasn't just about finding a partner. It was about discovering a new version of himself. A version that was braver, kinder, and more open to life's endless possibilities. While others doubted, Marcus knew one thing for certain. He had found the person he wanted to spend the rest of his life with, and no amount of criticism could change that. The day of the wedding arrived, and the air buzzed with excitement and whispers. Marcus stood at the altar, adjusting his tie for what felt like the 100th time. He could hear the murmur of voices drifting in from outside the venue where guests were gathering. Some sounded genuinely happy, while others carried an unmistakable edge of skepticism. He took a deep breath, reminding himself why today mattered. It wasn't about pleasing anyone else, it was about him and Nia. Nia, meanwhile, was in a small room nearby, surrounded by her closest friends and family. She looked radiant in a flowing, ivory dress that hugged her curves beautifully, its sequined details catching the light with every movement. Her hair was styled in loose curls, framing her glowing face. As she glanced at herself in the mirror, one of her bridesmaids handed her a bouquet of sunflowers, a nod to her vibrant personality. "You look stunning," the bridesmaid said, beaming. Nia smiled softly but didn't respond. She knew not everyone would agree. When the doors opened and the music began, all eyes turned toward Nia as she walked down the aisle. The room fell, silent save for the soft notes of the piano playing in the background. Heads craned to get a better look, and though many smiled warmly, some faces betrayed their surprise, or worse, their judgment. A few guests exchanged subtle glances, their expressions saying more than words ever could. One elderly aunt even leaned over to whisper something to her neighbor, her lips curling into a disapproving frown. But Nia didn't let any of it faze her. With her head held high, she focused on Marcus standing at the end of the aisle. His eyes lit up when he saw her, and for a moment, nothing else existed. They locked gazes, sharing a silent understanding that no amount of criticism could diminish what they had built together. When she finally reached him, Marcus took her hands in his, squeezing them gently as if to say, "We've got this." As the ceremony unfolded, Nia's presence commanded attention. She spoke her vows with such sincerity and conviction that even the harshest critics found themselves momentarily captivated. Her voice carried strength and grace as she promised to support Marcus through life's ups and downs, to celebrate his victories, and to stand by him during challenges. In return, Marcus vowed to cherish her for exactly who she was, not despite her differences but because of them. During the reception, the atmosphere shifted between moments of warmth and lingering tension. Some guests approached Nia with genuine curiosity, asking about her work or complimenting her dress. Others kept their distance, sticking to tight-knit groups where they could share whispered opinions without being overheard. At one point, a distant relative cornered Marcus near the bar, trying to crack jokes about how brave he was for marrying someone so different. Marcus simply smiled politely and excused himself, unwilling to engage in their negativity. What truly stole the show, however, was Nia's speech. Toward the end of the evening, she stood up to address the crowd. Holding her glass aloft, she thanked everyone for coming, acknowledging both the supporters and the skeptics alike. Then, with quiet confidence, she shared a message that silenced the room. "Love isn't about finding someone who fits into a box created by society," she said, her voice steady yet kind. "It's about finding someone who makes you better, who challenges you to grow, and who sees the beauty in you even when others don't." Her words hung in the air, leaving many guests visibly uncomfortable. Some shifted in their seats, avoiding eye contact, while others nodded slowly, perhaps beginning to see things differently. For Marcus, watching Nia speak with such poise and wisdom filled him with pride. He realized in that moment that their love story wasn't just theirs. It was a lesson for anyone willing to listen. By the time the night wound down, the couple stepped outside under a shower of sparklers, hand in hand. Behind them, the chatter resumed, ranging from heartfelt congratulations to muttered disbelief. But none of it mattered. Marcus and Nia had made their promises, and they were ready to face whatever came next, together. 2 years had passed since the wedding, and life for Marcus and Nia was nothing short of extraordinary. Their days were filled with laughter, purpose, and a shared sense of fulfillment that only deepened their bond. Together they had built a home that wasn't just a place to live, but a sanctuary, a cozy corner of the world where love and creativity thrived. Their house sat on the edge of town, surrounded by tall trees that swayed gently in the breeze. Inside, every room told a story. The living room walls were adorned with paintings Nia had created or collected over the years, bright splashes of color that reflected her vibrant spirit. In one corner stood a bookshelf overflowing with novels, art supplies, and photo albums documenting their journey together. And then there was Max, their playful rescue dog, who greeted them at the door each evening with boundless enthusiasm. But it wasn't just their personal lives that flourished. Their professional endeavors blossomed as well. Inspired by Nia's passion for empowering others, the couple founded a nonprofit organization called Art for All. Its mission was simple yet powerful: to provide underprivileged communities with access to art education and resources. Nia poured her heart into teaching workshops, mentoring young artists, and organizing community events that celebrated diversity and self-expression. Her energy was infectious, drawing people from all walks of life to join the cause. Marcus, too, found himself thriving in ways he hadn't anticipated. With Nia's unwavering support, he took bold risks in his career, pushing beyond his comfort zone to tackle projects that challenged him creatively. He began designing spaces that prioritized inclusivity and accessibility, earning recognition for his innovative approach. One project, a community center for underserved youth, became particularly close to his heart. It was during this time that he realized how much Nia's influence had shaped not only his personal growth, but also his professional vision. Despite their success, whispers from their past still lingered. Some old acquaintances continued to gossip, questioning whether Marcus had made the right choice. Others dismissed Nia's achievements, attributing her growing popularity to trends rather than talent. But neither Marcus nor Nia let these doubts weigh them down. Instead, they focused on what truly mattered, making a difference in the world around them. One Saturday morning, as they sipped coffee on their porch, Nia turned to Marcus with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. Marcus smiled, setting his mug down. "All the time," he replied. "When I look back at everything we've built together, the nonprofit, your workshops, my designs, I can't help but feel proud. Proud of us." Nia nodded, her eyes glistening with emotion. "It hasn't always been easy," she admitted. "There were moments when I wondered if we'd ever silence the critics, but now I know we didn't need to prove anything to anyone. We just needed to stay true to ourselves. And that's exactly what they did." As the months went by, their nonprofit gained momentum, attracting attention from local media and even national organizations. Nia became a sought-after speaker, sharing her story at conferences and schools. People were drawn to her authenticity and her ability to inspire others to embrace who they were without apology. Meanwhile, Marcus's architectural firm landed several high-profile contracts, cementing his reputation as a visionary designer. Through it all, their relationship remained the foundation of their success. They celebrated each other's victories, supported each other through challenges, and never lost sight of why they had chosen this path together. Whether it was late-night brainstorming sessions over takeout or quiet evenings spent sketching ideas side by side, they approached life as a team. By the end of the second year, Marcus and Nia had achieved more than either of them could have imagined. Yet, despite their accomplishments, they remained grounded, knowing that their greatest achievement was the love and partnership they shared. The skeptics may have doubted them once, but as their story unfolded, it became clear that Marcus and Nia weren't just building a life, they were creating a legacy. The news hit Marcus and Nia like a bolt of lightning on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday morning. As they sat together at their kitchen table, sipping coffee and scrolling through emails, two life-changing messages arrived almost simultaneously. The first was for Marcus. His architectural firm had been awarded a prestigious contract to design a cultural center, a project he'd dreamed of for years. The second was for Nia. A major publishing house wanted to turn her advocacy work into a book, offering her a deal that felt almost surreal. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They stared at their screens in stunned silence, the weight of what this meant slowly sinking in. Then, as if on cue, they both burst out laughing. "Is this real?" Nia asked, shaking her head in disbelief. Marcus grinned, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "Looks like we're about to take over the world," he joked, his voice tinged with awe. Word spread quickly. By lunchtime, their phones were buzzing non-stop with notifications from friends, colleagues, and even acquaintances they hadn't heard from in years. Social media lit up with congratulatory posts, hashtags celebrating their achievements, and endless streams of praise. But amidst the genuine excitement, there was something else, something more calculating. Invitations began pouring in, each one carrying a thinly veiled attempt to reconnect. First came the emails. Distant relatives who had skipped their wedding suddenly wanted to catch up. Old college buddies Marcus hadn't seen in a decade sent messages gushing about how proud they were of him. Former coworkers invited them to networking events or casual get-togethers, eager to bask in their newfound success. Even some of Nia's critics reached out, praising her inspirational journey as though they'd supported her all along. Then came the phone calls. One afternoon, Marcus picked up the receiver to find his Aunt Carol on the line, the same aunt who had openly questioned his decision to marry Nia. Her tone was syrupy sweet as she congratulated him on the cultural center project. "I always knew you had it in you," she said, conveniently forgetting her earlier skepticism. Marcus listened politely, biting back a laugh as he thanked her for calling. Nia faced similar situations. A former classmate who had once mocked her appearance slid into her DMs, claiming to be a huge fan of her work. Another acquaintance insisted they grab lunch to discuss collaboration opportunities, despite having ignored Nia's nonprofit efforts until now. Each interaction left her feeling conflicted, partly amused, partly irritated, but mostly determined not to let their insincerity dampen her joy. To celebrate their milestones, Marcus suggested hosting a party. Why not bring everyone together? He proposed, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Let's show them exactly who we are and maybe make them squirm a little. Nia laughed, loving the idea. Together they planned an evening filled with food, music, and laughter, inviting everyone who had doubted them alongside those who had genuinely supported them. The night of the party arrived, and their backyard transformed into a lively gathering space. Fairy lights twinkled overhead, casting a warm glow over the crowd. Guests mingled awkwardly at first, unsure how to act around the couple whose accomplishments suddenly made them seem larger than life. But as the hours passed, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations flowed, laughter echoed, and even the skeptics found themselves drawn in by Nia's charm and Marcus's quiet confidence. At one point, Marcus pulled Nia aside, his expression serious but playful. "Do you think they'll ever stop trying to win us over?" he asked, gesturing toward a group of former doubters chatting animatedly nearby. Nia smirked, leaning into him. "Probably not," she replied. "But honestly, I don't care anymore. Let them come. We've already won." As they stood there, surrounded by people who had once underestimated them, Marcus and Nia shared a knowing look. This wasn't just a celebration of their achievements. It was a testament to their resilience, their love, and their refusal to let anyone define their worth. And as far as they were concerned, the best was yet to come. The party was in full swing, and the backyard buzzed with energy. Fairy lights twinkled above, casting a golden glow over the crowd as laughter and music filled the air. Marcus and Nia moved through the sea of guests, greeting everyone with warm smiles. But beneath their cheerful demeanor, there was an unspoken understanding. They knew this night wasn't just about celebration, it was about closure. As dessert was served, Nia stepped up to the small makeshift stage at the center of the yard. She tapped the microphone gently, and the chatter died down. All eyes turned to her, some curious, others apprehensive. Dressed in a flowing emerald green dress that shimmered under the lights, she looked every bit the confident, radiant woman Marcus had fallen in love with. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began, her voice steady but warm. "This is such a special moment for Marcus and me, and we're so glad to share it with all of you." She paused, scanning the faces in the crowd. Some smiled back encouragingly, while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Nia took a deep breath before continuing. "When Marcus and I first got married, there were, let's say, mixed reactions." A ripple of nervous laughter spread through the audience, but her tone remained calm and composed. "Some of you supported us wholeheartedly, and for that, we are forever grateful. But others—" She let the sentence trail off, her gaze lingering on a few familiar faces. "Well, let's just say not everyone believed in us." Her words hung in the air, heavy yet deliberate. No one dared to speak or even shift too loudly. Marcus stood nearby, watching her with quiet admiration. He knew this speech wasn't easy for her. It wasn't in Nia's nature to call people out, but he also knew how important it was for her to say these things, for them both. "I'm not standing here tonight to shame anyone," Nia continued, her voice softening. "Life is too short for grudges. But I do want to take a moment to talk about something that matters deeply to me: authenticity. When Marcus chose me, he didn't choose me because I fit into a mold or met someone else's expectations. He chose me because of who I am. Curves, confidence, culture, and all. And honestly, that meant everything." She paused again, allowing her words to sink in. Some guests exchanged uneasy glances, while others nodded slowly, visibly moved. One woman dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, clearly affected by Nia's sincerity. For a long time, I've lived my life knowing that not everyone will understand or accept me, and that's okay, Nia went on. What I've learned is this. Your worth isn't determined by what other people think of you. It's determined by how true you stay to yourself and how much love you give to the people who matter most. Her gaze found Marcus then, and her lips curved into a tender smile. Marcus taught me that real love isn't about changing each other. It's about seeing each other fully and choosing to stand together anyway. And now, 2 years later, we've built something beautiful. Something real. The room was utterly silent now, every guest hanging on to her every word. Even those who had once mocked or doubted them seemed unable to look away. Nia's honesty was magnetic, her vulnerability turning the evening into something far more profound than anyone had expected. As we celebrate our achievements tonight, she concluded, raising her glass, I hope you'll remember this. Don't wait for validation from people who don't see your value. Surround yourself with those who uplift you, challenge you, and remind you of your strength, because at the end of the day, that's what truly matters. Applause erupted, breaking the spell. People cheered, clapped, and wiped tears from their eyes. Marcus walked up to join Nia on stage, wrapping an arm around her waist as they faced the crowd together. The skeptics, the doubters, the ones who had laughed behind closed doors, they were all there, forced to confront the truth of what Marcus and Nia had built. For some, it was humbling. For others, it was inspiring. But for Marcus and Nia, it was simply proof that they had been right all along. Love, resilience, and authenticity would always win. In the days following the party, Marcus and Nia noticed a shift in the atmosphere around them. The same people who had once mocked or dismissed their relationship were now reaching out, not with public praise but with private messages that carried tones of regret and reflection. Some emails arrived with subject lines like, "Can we talk?" or "I owe you an apology," while others came in the form of hesitant phone calls. One afternoon, as Nia sat at her desk reviewing drafts, for her upcoming book, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was a text from Sarah, Marcus's cousin, the same cousin who had snickered during their wedding and whispered about how unconventional Nia was. Sarah's message was brief, but loaded. "Hey, Nia, can we meet up sometime? I'd really like to talk." Nia stared at the screen for a moment, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She wasn't sure what to say. Part of her wanted to ignore the message altogether. After all, Sarah had been one of the loudest critics back then. But another part of her, the forgiving, empathetic side, knew it would be wrong to shut someone out without giving them a chance to explain. Finally, she replied, "Sure. Let me know when works for you." When they met at a quiet cafe later that week, Sarah seemed nervous. She fidgeted with her coffee cup, avoiding eye contact as she stumbled. Through her apology, I feel awful about how I acted," she admitted, her voice cracking slightly. "I judged you and Marcus before even getting to know you, and that wasn't fair. Seeing everything you've accomplished together, it made me realize how wrong I was." Nia listened patiently, her expression soft but unreadable. When Sarah finished, she took a deep breath before responding. "Thank you for saying that," Nia said gently. "It takes courage to admit when you're wrong, and I appreciate your honesty. But I hope you understand that forgiveness isn't about erasing the past, it's about learning from it." Sarah nodded earnestly, tears welling up in her eyes. "I do understand, and I promise I'll try to be better, to see people for who they are instead of what I expect them to be." Similar conversations unfolded in the weeks that followed. An old friend of Marcus's reached out to confess his jealousy over their happiness, admitting he had dismissed Nia because he couldn't imagine someone so different making Marcus truly content. Another relative apologized for doubting their marriage's longevity, acknowledging that their success proved her assumptions wrong. Each interaction was raw and humbling, forcing those who had doubted them to confront their biases. Through it all, Marcus and Nia approached these moments with grace. They didn't gloat or hold grudges. They simply accepted the apologies and encouraged the individuals to grow. For them, it wasn't about revenge or proving anyone wrong. It was about inspiring change, however small. As word of their generosity spread, more people began to take notice, not just of their achievements, but of their character. Interviews and public appearances became opportunities for Nia to share her journey, emphasizing themes of resilience, self-worth, and the importance of embracing diversity in all its forms. Her story resonated deeply, especially with young women who had struggled with societal pressures to conform. Marcus, too, used his platform to advocate for inclusivity, speaking passionately about designing spaces that welcomed everyone regardless of background or circumstance. Together they became symbols of hope, a reminder that love, creativity, and determination could overcome even the harshest judgments. Despite the influx of attention, they remained grounded, focusing on the values that had brought them this far. Their nonprofit continued to thrive, expanding its reach to new communities and touching countless lives. Nia's workshops filled up quickly, drawing participants eager to learn not only about art, but also about finding confidence in themselves. Meanwhile, Marcus's architectural projects gained recognition for their innovative approach to accessibility and community building. Looking back on everything they had endured, the whispers, the skepticism, the outright mockery, they couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. Not because they had silenced their critics, but because they had risen above the noise and created something meaningful. Their love wasn't just a personal victory, it was a testament to the power of staying true to oneself and refusing to let fear or judgment dictate one's path. By the time autumn rolled around, Marcus and Nia found themselves reflecting on how much had changed in just 2 years. The world around them still had its flaws, but they had carved out a space where authenticity and kindness reigned supreme. And as they stood together, hand in hand, watching the leaves fall outside their cozy home, they knew one thing for certain. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, with strength, love, and unwavering belief in each other. 2 years after their wedding, Marcus and Nia stood side by side on a crisp autumn morning, surrounded by a crowd of people who had once doubted them but now looked at them with admiration. They were at the groundbreaking ceremony for the cultural center Marcus had designed, a space dedicated to celebrating diversity, creativity, and community. As golden sunlight filtered through the trees, the air buzzed with excitement and anticipation. Marcus held a shiny silver shovel in his hands, its blade glinting in the sun. Beside him, Nia clutched a bouquet of sunflowers, her signature touch, symbolizing resilience and joy. The moment felt surreal yet deeply earned. Just a few years ago, they had faced ridicule and skepticism from many of the same faces now gathered around them, but today, those doubts seemed like distant echoes, drowned out by the cheers of supporters and the hum of progress. As Marcus stepped forward to deliver his speech, he glanced at Nia, who gave him an encouraging smile. He cleared his throat and began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "This project is more than just bricks and mortar," he said, gesturing toward the empty lot where the cultural center would soon rise. "It's about creating a place where everyone belongs, a space that reflects the beauty of our differences and reminds us of what we can achieve when we come together." The crowd erupted into applause, but Marcus wasn't finished. He turned to Nia, his eyes softening. "None of this would have been possible without the woman standing beside me. She taught me to see the world differently, to value authenticity over conformity and love over judgment. This center is as much hers as it is mine." Nia blushed, waving off the praise with a laugh, but the pride in her eyes was unmistakable. When it was her turn to speak, she stepped up to the microphone, gripping it firmly. "When Marcus and I started this journey, we didn't know where it would lead," she began, her voice warm and inviting. "All we knew was that we wanted to make a difference, not just in our own lives, but in the lives of others." She paused, scanning the faces before her. Some were familiar, friends, family, colleagues, while others were strangers drawn to the event by curiosity or shared values. "Love isn't always easy," she continued. "Sometimes it means facing criticism, overcoming obstacles and proving people wrong. But true love, the kind that lasts, isn't afraid of challenges. It grows stronger because of them. Her words resonated deeply, earning murmurs of agreement from the audience. One woman dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, while a young boy tugged on his mother's sleeve, asking if he could visit the center when it opened. Nia smiled, seeing the impact of their work already taking root. After the speeches, guests mingled freely, sharing stories and laughter under the bright blue sky. Former skeptics approached Marcus and Nia, thanking them for inspiring change, not just in the community, but in themselves. "You've shown us what real partnership looks like," one man admitted, shaking Marcus's hand. Another woman hugged Nia tightly, whispering, "Thank you for reminding me to embrace who I am." As the day drew to a close, Marcus and Nia found themselves alone for a moment, standing near the edge of the construction site. The wind rustled through the leaves, carrying with it a sense of possibility. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Nia asked, leaning into Marcus's shoulder. He wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "Honestly, no. But I'm glad we did it together." He kissed the top of her head, breathing in the scent of her perfume mixed with the earthy aroma of autumn. Every challenge, every doubt, it brought us here, to this moment, to this life. Nia nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "We built something amazing, didn't we?" she said softly. "Not just the cultural center, but everything. Our home, our work, our love. It's all connected." Marcus smiled, squeezing her hand. "And we're not done yet. There's still so much more to do." They walked back toward the gathering, hand in hand, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Behind them, workers began preparing the site for construction, marking the start of a new chapter, not just for Marcus and Nia, but for everyone who believed in the power of love, resilience, and inclusion. As they disappeared into the crowd, their story became more than just theirs. It became a beacon of hope, a reminder that true love isn't about fitting into someone else's mold. It's about finding someone who helps you become your best self, and then building a future bigger and brighter than either of you could have imagined alone.